Great.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome.
so this is fall 2025, uh,
Hmm.
art and visual perception. Um, someone wrote to me recently. I can't remember who, but someone in this class or someone who has taken this class, and they wrote that they came upon a book. They were helping someone to move. Oh, it's Kristen. They came upon a book. They were helping someone to move. An amazing person. I just realized this. An amazing person who had studied with Kakashka, personally studied with Kakashka. But anyway, they came upon this book and they were really startled by the title of the book, which is called Art and Visual Perception. Okay. Now, if you can't figure this out, Art and Visual Perception was written by Rudolf Arnheim. It's a classic book on looking at art. Okay. I like that book very much, and I like Arnheim very much. And when I lived in Rome at the American Academy in Rome, I was tremendously surprised that in the first year I was there, one of the people who was going to be in residence was Rudolf Arnheim. So I actually got to meet him and spend a lot of time with him. But my title comes from his book, uh, which, is kind of a funny inside joke, but it comes from this book. So the class is not really a class in art history. So I know maybe some of you are going to feel disappointed about that, but um, in my opinion, it's better. But that's just my opinion. The class doesn't uh, uh, dismiss art history, but it really is a class in something else, which is uh, art appreciation, and art appreciation from the point of view of the pulse and excitement that comes off works of art, the the electricity, the buzz, the frisson, uh, oh, thanks, the oomph that art has. And I think that all of art history uh, isn't that important. It's that thing that I describe, which is the important thing. If art doesn't have that, art history isn't going to enhance it. It's not going to do anything. So, but is not to say it's unimportant. It's, but rather than know that the painting is about a worker or the painting is about the Queen of Norway, it's more important to feel what's going on in the painting, to feel the excitement of it. That's my opinion. But there's a lot of different ways of presenting this, and my way is just one. And even in terms of art appreciation, there are a lot of different ways of presenting this. What I'm presenting is really what I look for in art that really gets to me, really is exciting. And I look for the same thing in literature or plays or dance or film. Okay. Um, you should come a little bit earlier to the class. You shouldn't come at 7 o'clock. Okay. Because I think you need a little gap between what you're doing and this class. At least 5 minutes. I would say 10, but at least 5 minutes. You need to breathe a bit and you're going to get into another world. Uh, so I would say to come between 6:40 and 6:45. We're going to start at 7 on the dot. And the class is extremely dense. There's a lot of information and intensity. Uh, Let me know if you can't come, okay? Just you could send me a text message, an email, or if you have to speak to me, you could call. But and another reason to come early is that some of you might have trouble getting on, okay? If you have trouble getting on, if you come in early, um, I can help you in some way. Example, just about three-quarters of an hour ago, Anne Marie wrote to me and she said, I misplaced the page which gives me the link. So do you have that? Well, luckily I was just sitting here and I did have it, but that could happen. And but if it gets very close to 7, there's really not anything I can do. I mean, it's just you'll just be out of luck. So you should bring a small notebook and you should take some notes on what we do. Um, if I refer to an artist, you might want to look up the artist, find out something about the artist. You might want to say in your notes, Simon forgot to say this, this, and this. I think these are important. I'll ask him about that. Or I really don't like that artist. I really don't like that artist. I'm going to just send an email to him. What are you doing? This is not the right artist. Okay. Um, and you can, if just tangentially, we talk about some artist that you never heard of, um, you could look up the artist. You don't even have to go to the library. You don't have to go to a bookstore. You can just look it up on the internet. Um, okay, so is there a question so far? Okay, so because of some conversation that happened before this class is going to be different than what we usually do.
Mhm.
Okay, usually everyone introduces themselves, but because of some question that took place, we're going to do it a little differently today because I want to speak about one artist today. So usually I ask everyone to say something about themselves, um, who they are, um, what their connection is with the fine arts, and some work of art that they have really responded to in the last 4 or 5 months. In the last 4 or 5 months. So we have 5 new students. Okay. So in order to make this part, much, much shorter, I'm only going to speak to the 5 students and myself. So I'm going to start, and then the 5 students are going to follow from me. Okay. So my name is Simon Dinnerstein. You should call me Simon. And I am a painter and drawer and printmaker. I'm now working on a painting that is really major, major painting, and I work on it all the time, every day, every morning. Um, a few things that I've seen recently that really was stunning. I would start with the current exhibit of Gregory Gillespie, which I'll talk about more. Um, I traveled recently to Italy, and in Italy, in Rome, there was an incredible exhibit of Edvard Munch. Edvard Munch in Rome. Um, I like his work very much, and maybe it has to do with time or age or mood. I was very struck by the exhibit. It was very, very, very emotional. Um, I traveled to Milan to see an exhibit of Felice Casarate, Casarate, Casorati, Felice, Felice. I had only seen a few of his works in person, maybe two, but I was very struck by them, and the exhibit was stunning. Um, oh, and one last exhibit in New York City that I saw was of the art of William Kentridge, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. Um, and a film I would recommend is a film called Burning, which I think is Korean. It's a film of a novel of Murakami. I highly recommend that film. Have any of you seen it? Okay. All right. So now, following me, we're going to go to Philippa. Philippa, can you say something about who you are?
Philippa, yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course. My name is
You want to
born in England, moved to Wapakoneta, Ohio. Sorry?
just
I've moved to Wapakoneta.
keep it to like 2, 3 minutes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I moved to Wapak in 1968. Lived in the mountains, mostly rural areas. I was a homemaker and did art on the side. It's been a thread that's run through my life. And during COVID, I started doing online classes, which has been fantastic to connect with really professional artists. The last year, I went to New York to see Katie Kolwitz at MoMA, and then somebody who just happened to be have an exhibit at the New Gallery, Paula Modason Becker, and I have loved her drawings and her art. She was one of the first artists that I really related to.
Hmm.
That was an amazing, amazing exhibit.
Terrific. We've covered two of those. We've covered those two artists, and great, really great. Thanks. So now,
Thank you.
Kathy. Oh, Kathy isn't here. Um, so now, Rich.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rich Norris. I'm 83 years old, retired. I've had a long interest in um, intellectual history. I studied it as a student in the 70s at NYU, but I never worked as an academic. I worked in Seattle, in the Port of Seattle, doing mostly logistics and labor relations stuff. I'm retired now, and my partner and I do a lot of traveling. We were most recently in Vienna and Berlin.
Hmm.
And to mention an artist that I saw recently that struck me was Ludwig Kirchner and Die Brücke group, which I saw in Berlin. I had seen his work before, but not very much of it. And Now I guess I have to say something about why it struck me. I'm not really sure, other than the fact that um, it reminded me a bit of the Fauvism movement with the bright colors. And there was definitely something about the political situation at the time that came through in the work.
That's great. That's great. Um, so now, John. John.
Hi, my name is John Parham. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, about just shy of 70 years ago. I was always talented with a pencil and pen. They recognized that in fourth grade. I was in a Catholic school. I remember staying after school, and a nun had me draw, or it was a pen and ink to enter in a contest. But I remember vaguely, this is fourth grade. I don't know how old you are then, but it
Nine.
was
Nine.
a harlequin with, black and white diamonds. And I don't have that anymore, but I think back on that going, geez, how lucky or how, sophisticated this nun was to have me, she sort of pushed me into it. And then later, I was, just a few years later, somehow this book, Picasso's, it was his private stash that he didn't release. David Duncan Douglas wrote the captions, ended up in our house. And I remember just being like suspended in space, looking at these things. I'm probably, 12 years old or something at the time. My mom going, "Do you really like these?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding? I like them." But I couldn't explain why. But I was, like floating in the air, like looking at these things. And then in what is it, like high school, I stumbled. We had to do a report in school, and I picked a Warhol. And man, I was like head over heels with Warhol. I remember going to a Xerox machine and just running off copies because I thought, this machine reproduction was where it was at. I got a thrill out of that. I didn't really understand what I was dealing with. I remember the teacher going, but he doesn't follow any of the rules of anything. There's no perspective. He's denying 2,000 years of art history. And I didn't know what the answer was, but recently this spring, this summer, I was in Siena, and I sort of discovered the Sienese school, like pre-Renaissance. Well, the Met did a great job with it. With that, I think it was called The Rise of Painting, and there was a Simone Martini there, Madonna della Misericordia. And for those that don't know it, it's a Madonna that's the size of a tower, and in her cloak are all the townspeople and the magistrates, and they're huddled there, and she's protecting them.
Mm,
And I just thought, this is so pure, so unironic, and so tender.
mm,
It was heartbreaking, and
beautiful.
that was my travels. A film I would recommend is it's sort of a Romana play of Gerhard Richter, his coming of age as an artist, leaving East Germany. Never Look Away.
Yeah,
I think
I've
it's
seen
it's
that.
fantastic.
I've
I
seen
love it.
terrific film.
Yeah,
This is good. This is good. This is
that's my story.
just right. Sylvia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Silvia Gigliotti and I live in Brooklyn. I'm actually a neighbor of Simon and a good friend of Renee. So here I am. I'm semi-retired, but still working in private practice as a mostly couples and family therapist, which I enjoy very much. And I was born in Parma. I'm Italian, and I spent 5 weeks in Italy actually this summer, which was very special. And and so I saw a lot of wonderful art. One thing that stayed with me at the Galleria Nazionale in Parma, there was I actually looked it up on my iPad so I can show you this small painting. Oh, maybe I cannot see. It's a Leonardo da Vinci, and it's called La Scapigliata. The reason I looked it up is that I didn't know what would be the English title, and apparently it translates as The Lady with Disheveled Hair.
Mm.
And what I liked about it is, I mean, besides the fact that is just a spectacular painting, I mean, just beautifully executed, but there is something wild and also something intimate and almost shy about the Scapigliata. I have no idea who she is. That I found really moving, and is a small painting, but in some ways is very imposing, and in a very beautiful setting. And John, like you reminded me that I spent a few days in Tuscany with a friend. The reason we went to Tuscany is that on my friend's bucket list was to go to the Duomo in Siena. You mentioned Siena, because only there is a beautiful and amazing floor that is normally covered to protect from, I don't know, from visitors, from everything. And they just show it a few weeks during the summer. And so we went to see it, and it was, incredible. But something that stayed with me is that every bit of the floor told the story, and it was a reminder of how I think we have lost familiarity with the language of allegory, and how we have to really now spend the time to understand what something stands for, the story behind it, when time ago, I think that it was a very immediate way to tell an important story. And so I have sort of had it in my mind, this idea of be more mindful and pay more attention to symbolic meaning and allegory.
Mm. Mm. That's very well stated. Um, okay, I'm going to take over now. Um, so uh, I I I want to confess that there's a long-standing problem in doing this kind of class. And the problem goes like this. Um, I mean, you probably guess at what I'm going to say, but the problem goes like this. A few students write to me, and they write to me to say, we don't want so many students speaking. We want you to lecture the whole time. Okay. The next day, a few students write to me and they say, you are lecturing too much and the students can't participate. Okay? You are taking over and the students can't talk. Okay. Two forks in the road. So now the same thing occurred with the artist that I wanted to speak about this term, Gregory Gillespie. A few students wrote to me and said, we have studied this artist already. We have studied this artist already. Can you think about maybe doing something else? At the very moment that they wrote to me, I got a note from one student which said, I spent some slow time today at Forum Gallery, totally sequestered with the astonishing art of Gregory Gillespie. It felt as if I'd gotten lost in some magical sacred place, losing all sense of my usual world. An unexpected and wonderful present. Okay? So, um, how does one deal with such disparate responses to life and to my class? So, I thought of a compromise, and the compromise you see already, which is much less people are introducing themselves. And I'm going to say a little bit about Gillespie tonight. And that will be, uh, for my part, what I have to say. Um, so, um, I wrote to you, or I think almost all of you, that this exhibit was on of Gregory Gillespie's work. And I urge you to see it in person. Um, how many of you have seen this? Oh, great, great. Oh, terrific, terrific. So three of you have seen it. Um, now, to see an exhibit in person is so different than seeing it in video or seeing it through slides. It's so different. Um, you really sense the textures, the life force, the presence of the art. It's totally different. So that's one thing. The second thing is Gregory Gillespie passed away in the year 2000. So the his work is shown every 5 or 10 years. It has to be gathered together from different places to be able to be seen. So if you live in New York or close to New York, I hope you can see this. It's like an amazing exhibit and really high art experience. Um, I don't think any photo can do justice to an artist's work, but the difference between photography, slides, transparencies to the real thing is just a big difference. Um, okay, so I'm going to, when I send you the recording from tonight, I will reiterate where the exhibit is, how long it's on for, and I'm also going to send you a link to an interview conversation that I did with Peggy Gillespie, uh, the wife of Gregory Gillespie. And how many of you saw that interview that I did? Okay, so that's about a little less than half. Okay. Um, okay, so Gregory Gillespie is 1936 to 2000. Um, so I have to go quite quickly now because I want to show you pictures. Um, so he was a very important artist in my journey as an artist. Um, his work is figurative, but it has an intensity about it that most figurative art doesn't have. It has a pulse about it that almost exactly duplicates the introduction to this class. In other words, it's he's almost a poster child for this class because it's that pulse that I want to feel in works of art. It's not true in every work of art of his, but it's true in many of them, and more than most artists. Um, he is a great example of someone pursuing art and going completely his way. The work edges into realism and figurative art, but it really, at its best, is something different, something all its own. And curiously enough, he did not think of himself as a realist. That when you see the exhibit, you'll see that's kind of funny. But he did not think of himself in that way. There are many influences in his work. I would say Bosch would be an influence, Bruegel, an interesting artist who's not as well known as he should be, early Renaissance Italian artist Carlo Crivelli. Carlo, Crivelli, Crivelli, Goya, and much of Surrealism. In person, the textures and surfaces are amazing. His hand is touched, single quoted, and his art takes you to different places, makes you think, etc. It doesn't reassure you of what you already know. This is an important thing for me. It doesn't reassure you for what you already know. Now, different people or different artists look for different things in art. Okay? So that would be one of my criteria for really good art. It didn't tell you what you already know. It didn't make you feel good. It wasn't warm and cozy. It took you around the corner to some place that you didn't know. And it didn't have to go around the corner. It could have just taken you to your living room and showed you something that you weren't aware of in your living room. Or it could have taken you to your bathroom and could have shown you something in your bathroom that was there all the time and you just didn't know it. Um, his work is full of an edgy energy and pulse. Some of his works are very, very small, and some are very large. Small being like this big, like 8 inches high, 10 inches high. Um, the sense of a world in Gillespie's art is very strong. Looking closely or looking slowly, one sees the mad and obsessive quest in his work. The surfaces are demonic, worked to endless finishes. He paints on wood panels, not canvas. And there are few artists who paint on wood panels. Most artists today paint on canvas. I use wood panels, and wood panels are better if you want to create your own textures. In the early Renaissance and in the Renaissance, most artists painted on wood panels. But when paintings became larger and larger, wood panels became a problem because wood warps, and they need a special arrangement behind them to prevent the wood from warping. Um, so curiously, the magic or awe in the painting goes well past all the surfaces to a mysterious, secret, and transcendent world. In person, one senses in the best of these works an insistent and daring presence. One could say that the paintings are narrative. The only issue is that the narrative is unclear. completely. So I think that what I'm going to do now is show you some images of his work, and then I'm going to ask for some input from you. So do you have a question at this point? All right, let me see if I can do this. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so I'm going to run through about 20 slides uh, of Gillespie's work. The first 10 are in this exhibit. This painting is of a scene in Madrid. Very, very small painting. I would say 8 inches high, 9 inches high. Very, very interesting and mysterious. Um, okay. Now, let me let me just skip ahead a little bit, yeah, to this. Um, so Gillespie lived in Rome for a number of years. Some of the years he lived at the American Academy in Rome on a Rome Prize fellowship, and some he lived on a Fulbright grant to Rome. So all told, I believe he lived in Rome for 7 or 8 years. And some of these paintings are influenced by living in Rome. For instance, this one uh, is part of a series of paintings having to do with walls and niches in Rome. Um, uh, they're very, very intense. And the surface is very interesting in the paintings. And in reproductions, that's one of the things that is really missing. In reproductions, the surface flattens out. Even if you're very experienced at looking at things, it really flattens out. Um, so these niches or um, points of reverence or points of ambivalence are described in his work. So this is one, and um, you see, this is another one. This one is really, really stunning. Um, I think the color in this is a little grayish. It's more vivid in person. And the walls are just beautifully painted. And out the window is a monument in Rome called the Castle St. Angelo. Um, and he might have seen something like this in a bar and invented the window. And he in many times uses collage and paint together. So I wouldn't be surprised if the coffee can is not collaged onto this panel. Okay, that we did that already. So now, in some instances, these walls um, uh, start to lose it in terms of going from naturalism into some other realm. And here he depicts himself uh, on the top right and multiple, which looks like photographs in the painting on the bottom right. And then what seems like um, other photographs, and viscera running through the middle, sort of gorging, gorging out. Um, it's a very intense. It may not be for everyone, but very intense. So let's just go back a little bit to. So this painting, all those paintings are in this exhibit. This painting is very large, and it, in a way, continues the Italian world that you saw before. So this is about maybe 10 feet wide. Um, Also, if you're not used to looking at art, I always think it's important to know how big or small the images that you're looking at. Um, a mistake in book publishing is when books are published and they don't tell you the size of the painting. So this painting, if you look at it here, could be 2 feet wide or 10 feet wide or 1 foot wide or 11 feet wide. It makes a difference. So, and you'll see in the other photographs how big it is, but this is about 10 feet wide. I cannot really say what this is about, okay? But it is so intense and present and so upending. This is a painting of Gillespie, self-portrait. Um, he uses a mask here, a child's toy here. This looks like his first wife, this one. Another kind of mask. The niche, which comes from Italy. I don't know who this is. In the niche is a squash, beautifully done. This almost three-dimensional thing for notes. Um, okay, so the next one, this, oh, sorry, this one. So you see this in context with other works. And then the next one, you see this with myself. This wasn't in this exhibit, this was another exhibit, but I took this because I like this painting, but I also took it to give a sense of how big this is. Um, okay, so let's just keep going. In 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 looking at Gillespie's paintings, I came across this one, which I'd never seen before, and it is just stunning. And at first, I thought it was attributed. See, a lot of times on the internet, they'll say a picture is by someone, and it really isn't. It's just they're just making it up. It would take too much of time to discuss why this occurs, but I thought this was not his, and it was incorrectly attributed. But it said Whitney Museum. So I looked up the Whitney Museum, and sure enough, this is his painting. Uh, in any case, the painting is super striking, made me think of the New York City subways and of the depth of the tunnels and the mystery all the way in the back. If I remember right, it's not that large a painting. It's, I think, maybe 20 by 30 or in that ballpark. Um, you could see all the textures in here and the walls, um, the um, the walls coming alive. This is not in this exhibit, but the others are. Oh. This one is in the exhibit, but in another room, a room that is in the back. But you should go into that room and see this. So this is a good-sized painting. This might be 50 by 40 inches, so something like that, or maybe even bigger. Um, Now, one thing that's very interesting in his work is the separateness of the objects. So this object here is separate and stands apart from the wall. And, sorry. Um, this one uh, stands apart from the tablecloth. Um, this squash, gourd or squash, stands apart. And this object, which appears quasi like a children's drawing, stands apart. The surface where this meets this, or this meets this, or this meets this, is super striking. It is hard to explain. There's no air in the picture. The air in the picture is the air in the gallery where you're looking at this. I I find that very interesting, and in my own work, which is not to say that I find it interesting because it's my own work, but in my own work, um, the paintings take on not an air in the painting, but they take on the air that's in the room that it's in. In other words, it could be as if the people could move into the room, or the table, you can you can put something on the table. It doesn't have air in it. Um, Maybe you'll have a question about that later, but I want to get further because I'm concerned that I want this introduction to be just right. Um, okay. This painting is not in this exhibit, but it's one of my favorite paintings of his. Um, I always felt in looking at this is a nice sized painting. I always felt in looking at this that these objects, the still life, looked like they were breathing, look like they were breathing in and out, pumping like hearts. And it is dazzling. It's really dazzling. And it's painted very straight, but there's something going on that is really curious and weird. Um, then the tiles on the floor and all of these paint doodads at the bottom are painted sort of differently than what's on the top. Um, this painting has more air in it, but not much. The box is wonderfully done. Oh, sorry. This one I just found, and I think, is a good size, and it indicates the same kind of composition of a tabletop with still lifes on it and niches. I'm sorry, it's slightly out of focus. So this is a painting that Gregory Gillespie did of his wife, who I interviewed, and this is in the exhibit, and it's a really wonderful painting. Um, this is an imagined pregnancy, so that's one thing. Um, the interview with her, the conversation with her, was really one of the best classes, and I hope some of you who haven't seen that would look at the link. And if you have seen it, you might find it interesting to look at it again. She's a very interesting woman. And without being evaluative about it, it it would seem to me that it would take a very unusual woman to be married to this artist. Okay. This is in the exhibit, a painting of the same woman, Peggy. I believe this is in this exhibit as well. I'm sorry this is a bit out of focus. She carries something, a circular thing with kind of verticals or triangles in it. I'd be curious to know if anyone knows what that is when we get to speaking later. Uh, in a previous class, besides interviewing the wife, um, I spoke about Gillespie's self-portraits, and I had forgotten about that when I thought to show Gillespie again this term. I actually didn't plan to do this, but when I saw the exhibit, I thought it would be good. But in any case, in this previous exhibit, I think the exhibit in its previous class, it was on self-portraits, and I think I did Van Gogh, Rembrandt. There was a third artist. I can't remember the third one, and Gillespie. This is another self-portrait. This is in the exhibit. Uh, this is a painting I liked as soon as I saw it. This was maybe a painting from the 1960s. Very small painting. I'd say 10 inches high. Also, it's very interesting about his work. In many of the early paintings, for instance, the one on Madrid, called Madrid, I think, and this one, I believe that the paintings were done over photographs. So I believe that this is over a photograph. Um, I think all of the whacked out qualities that may exist in his work are being harnessed to something else. It strikes me as not whacked out for itself. I can't prove this. I definitely can't prove this, but it strikes me as not whacked out to just be different, but whacked out with some purpose. So now, uh, the reason I included him in this incredible grouping of self-portraits, which is an amazing compliment to him, is that at at the best of these self-portraits, these paintings are just absolutely stunning and transcendent. Um, and there was an exhibit that I saw, I believe in 1991, at the same gallery in a different location. There may be a catalog for that exhibit. So if you go to the gallery, they, I bought, for instance, I bought a catalog of his work from a traveling show. I bought it there. There may be that catalog of this grouping of self-portraits. And this was one of them. And this is just an amazing painting. Not very large at all, like maybe 20 inches, 22 inches high. Um, very Renaissance, but crazy, really crazy. Full on nut, full on nuts. Um, okay. um, this painting is fascinating in terms of the different textures that are going on here. Um, you see the palette, you see his head, you see the picture on the wall, this picture on the wall, like three distinct realities in one image. And this painting is large, maybe 60 inches, 50, 60 inches high. And every strand of this sweater is done. And the gravitas of this, almost like a soldier in the army of art, army of the pursuit of art. Um, this is a detail. Sorry, this is a detail of this painting. Um, so I got a note from someone. I put this on Facebook to show an advertisement for the class where I spoke with Gregory's wife and suggesting if people were interested in my class, they would find the video of that conversation to be interesting. So I got a note back from someone who is runs a contemporary atelier on the teaching of art. So this is a kind of conservative direction in which many, many different academic rules are taught or which can be taught. And there is a little problem in this point of view between the means and ends in art. But this person writes this to me. I hope you can grasp this. This, he's referring to this detail, which to me is utterly fantastic. This was the level of realism artists used to do during the height of abstraction, before today's atelier movement received classical training. He's talented and dedicated, but it looks self-taught. I don't think the primitive direction is intentional. He's talented and dedicated, but it looks self-taught. I don't think the primitive direction is intentional. I find it hard to understand how to respond to that. Um, okay, so the next one. So here again, multiplicity of realities. Um, I think this is called something like myself painting a self-portrait. So this is the self-portrait that he's painting, which is, if you want to find it funny, it can be considered funny. This is his self-portrait, and this is him painting his self-portrait. Um, then you have the reality of this still life, and beautifully formed. this doesn't give a sense of the painting at all. And this palette with all the different things on it, and these tools for measuring. He gets very interested in mandalas and the Eastern world, and there's multiple influences here of that direction. You see how separate this is? This and this and this. I think all of these self-portraits were in the exhibit that I mentioned. Now, this painting here is owned by the Metropolitan Museum. I don't think they really show it at all. This is another painting of Peggy. This is a very large painting. This is maybe 9 feet high. He does something very interesting here. He has the background surfaces white, white, all white. Usually in many paintings, the background surfaces are dark and the images are light. Here he reverses this. Very, very effective. So this mannequin juxtaposed against this white wall. This fire gizmo here against this white wall. I think this might be the last one, and I had a little something to read. This painting appears in another painting earlier on in this presentation. So I got this catalog. I bought this at this exhibit. And there is a essay in here by a man named Carl Bells, who was the director of a museum at Brandeis University and is also a writer. So the first paragraph reads, during a visit to Gregory Gillespie's studio a few years ago, he and I began talking about brushes, for there were many of them in jars and cans. There were big brushes and small ones, some obviously much used, others less so, the kind of arsenal you would expect to find in any painter's studio. These are the tools of the trade, except that in Gregory's case, I harbored a special curiosity about them, because I had come to think of them as possessing special powers, that once he took them up, they could yield magic. Such feelings had repeatedly been my experience of Gregory's art since I first encountered it back in the 1970s. The conviction on initially seeing a picture from a distance that actual objects hung on its surface, a mask, say, or a tool of some kind, a hammer or a broom or saw, even a toilet seat, only to discover, on closer inspection, and with an astonishment that invariably recalled and made credible Pliny's description of Zeux's grapes, the ones to which the birds flew and tried to eat, that everything was trompe l'oeil, painted fakery. I wondered then if, in concert with his innate talent, Gregory's magic was enabled by any especially fine brushes, which was the question I posed. He replied that that was not the case, that he employed different brushes at different stages of the creative process, whatever was needed to secure the desired visual effect. He went on to say, however, almost as an aside, that he had some quite expensive brushes that he planned to use once he got, quote, good enough for them. Good enough? Question mark. What could he possibly have meant by that? Question mark. So, um, I would be curious to hear what you think. Um, I'm going to try to go back to all of you. And I am curious to hear any questions or comments on Mr. Gillespie or Mr. Dinnerstein. Oh, I have a question for you, actually. Uh, oh, is Mary still there? No. Oh, that's too bad. Um,
I am still here.
Mary, you wrote such a beautiful note to me. Seeing it this way, the 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 slides, the slides, how does that compare to seeing the work in person?
You know, they're so different. Being in that room was really amazing. I really loved it. It
How
was a completely different experience.
how is it different?
Well, I feel like I'm learning all this stuff and listening to what you're saying, and I read about him and his work, but being in the presence of it is just a different kind of dimension of taking in the work. It just feels like it, I don't know, I can't, it's a whole different thing.
Um, Carol, you said you saw this. Uh, Could you add something to this? How is it different in person?
Oh, it's completely different. I mean, what I was struck by that you don't feel here. I was looking at my notes about it. Incredible skin, the texture of his skin. But I also had this kind of big question of, I mean, it seemed to me he did so many self-portraits that I wondered what that meant about him. And um, and one other thing, Simon, there's that very large painting of the studio wall.
Yeah.
And when I first looked at it, it somehow reminded me of your big painting that you're working on now.
Yes, there is a lot of connections, actually. Yeah. Um, uh, who else saw that exhibit? There was a third person. Oh, you did. Anne Marie. So could you add anything about seeing the work in person?
I guess the intensity of the color and the texture of the paintings themselves cannot be, cannot be experienced in this kind of way, except being in the room and being up close to them or being far away, and there's kind of a silence to them too, that it is like a feeling that you want to be in their yeah, you need some quiet time with these paintings, for me.
Anne Marie, one of the things I just realized I forgot to mention is that Gillespie was brought up in a strict Catholic upbringing, and uh, there's something about that that reverberates in his art, some ambivalence or duality about it. Um, there were a number of pictures that I would have liked to have shown, but I didn't find reproductions of those, and I didn't take, I didn't use my camera to take pictures of them. Oh, I really wasn't thinking. Um, so it, this is not an artist that maybe is for everyone. I am putting forth my enthusiasm. But if one wanted to express negativity about this, which you saw in the thing that I read by the
Mhm.
by the uh, atelier person, which to me seemed absurd. But you don't have to respond to this. I respond to it, and the thing that got to me to start with was that he was working in a figurative direction, but it was incredibly modern and incredibly today. It wasn't redoing 150 years ago. So that struck me as this is possible. Okay. So I was a very young art student when I encountered this, and he was like a light that painting was more um, mysterious and more possible than a set of rules. You know, you could make your own rules. Um, any other input on this? Sylvia, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, it was so interesting to hear that he grew up in a Catholic environment because, when you show the picture, the painting of the ant with that red thing, and you were saying, I don't know what it is, so tell me if you have any ideas. Immediately, I thought it reminds me of the Sacred Heart, in a sort of secular way, because it's not shaped like a heart or anything, but to me it had that quality, and so I found that interesting, and I really didn't know his work, and I want actually now to see it. I'm so glad that I'm learning about him, but I was kind of, as I was listening, taking the notes and typing down words that came to mind, and his work is kind of disturbing in many ways. I found it very disturbing. There is mutilation, you name it, but also there is like a domestic quality to it, to me at least. For example, I loved the one of the first paintings you show where there is just a table with the tablecloth, and there is like on the left side a sort of a fold, a wrinkle that to me made me think of, somebody was eating here and then they cleared the table, and there is a sort of an emptiness that brings up the memory of something very domestic, and I thought that was very, very clever, was beautiful. Also, one more thing, then I shut up. But I really enjoyed your explanation. The painting, it's him, I guess, with the sweater.
Yes, yes.
And one thing that I found striking is that there is so much going on, and yet, like in the middle of it, his hands are so central and so big. And I don't know what's the meaning of it, but you're thinking here is someone who is like doing this amazing work with his hands, right? But there is something about his hands.
Um, anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Yes, if I could.
Yeah, Rita.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who is?
uh, Philippa, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I wasn't familiar with this painter, but thank you very much for the introduction. It's my cup of tea. I think it's wonderful. I love what Sylvia said. I think that's very astute. Um, as you know, I post a lot of images of paintings, but it's night and day when you're seeing them in person. One of the things I think you get a sense of the artist. You can see the light much more clearly. the definition between light and shadow when you're looking at a painting in person. I feel you can see that much more easily than just a photograph or a slide. And also, yes, I like to really spend quiet time with a painting because I feel that I really get a sense of the artist. Sometimes you get some insight into their method when you see the painting up close, and you almost feel like you're a vessel when you're looking at an artist's work.
Very well said.
But I wish I could see them in person. If I have an opportunity, I will.
I would say it'd be worth a trip, frankly. There's other things to see besides.
How long will it be there?
It's a long exhibit. I don't remember the finish date, but I think it's in November. I think it goes into November, but it may say it on the announcement I sent. If someone can,
I'll double check. If I'm able, I'll see it.
I have the announcement. It's November 8th.
November 8th. November 8th.
Perfect.
The reason I thought to start with him is that I wanted everyone to have at least a chance to see it in person, because if you lived close to New York, you could possibly do that. Ohio is something else. But let me just get a few more people involved here. Rita.
Yes. Could you read a little bit of that Atelier quote again?
Yeah.
Part
Yeah. There's,
primitive.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I see a word that I didn't get right. So this is from a person who runs an atelier in which, in a very academic way, realism has been reinvented with rules, with a lot of rules and a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you understand what I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this person says to me or to whoever, this was the level of realism artists used to do during the height of abstraction, period. Before today's atelier movement received classical training. He's talented and dedicated, but it looks self-taught. I don't think the primitive quality is intentional.
So I think the use of the word but is so offensive.
His use of what?
The word but.
Um,
Because it's a criticism, and it makes it feel like a very elite criticism.
yes, but also there's something that great art brings, which is beyond the rules, past the rules, into something that is more mysterious, more irrational, or
But
more under the table.
is this critic saying that? He's saying, I feel like he's saying the opposite of that in that sentence.
That he is saying the opposite. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying that
Yeah.
in addition to what you said
Yeah.
about the use of the word but, you could
Yeah.
add this part. And the strangeness is really the idiosyncratic quality of art.
Mm-hmm.
And if everything is rules, it's not really art, it's something else. It's
Mm-hmm.
rules. And so he's saying he doesn't see the rules in
Mm-hmm.
Gregory's art. Thank goodness. Okay. Thank goodness. Um, any other input or question? Len.
So I found myself puzzling over his inclusion of these small portraits of himself in the various photos. And I was thinking about the psychology, what prompts an artist to include these little portraits. And as your presentation went on and we got to the actual self-portraits, a thread emerged to me that I'll call introspection. What I was thinking was, if you think about the portraits of Rembrandt and Van Gogh, for example, Rembrandt is painting for an audience, right? He's painting to amuse. He's saying, "Hey, audience, look at me." Whereas Van Gogh is much more cerebral, right? He's doing his own thing. He's trying to capture his mood. And I think Gillespie falls a little bit more in the Van Gogh camp, but with a twist, in that Gillespie seems to be studying himself. I felt he's looking at himself, even when he inserts these little portraits. It's almost like I'm reminding myself that I'm there, and I'm looking back at me. All of his portraits, I feel him looking back at himself, challenging himself, questioning who am I at this instant, at this moment when I'm painting these paintings. Who is this 45-year-old Gregory that I'm here? Who's this 57-year-old Gregory that I'm here? This 61-year-old Gregory, what have you? It seems to me very internal, very cerebral, very self-studying.
Um, I think you're onto something, but I'd be very careful about being definitive
Mm.
because it's like making up something. It seems to me it's hard to pin it down what they're about. And
Mhm.
the hard to pin it down part may be the most amazing part because it's so real. I hope you can see this in person. They're so real, but yet you can't grasp them. You can't put your arms around them. So they're elusive in some way. Um, I'm sorry, John, you wanted to say something. John,
Yes, yes. I haven't seen the show. I appreciate this introduction to the artist. I totally respect the guy for his intensity and his talent. Uh, he doesn't strike me as a happy camper. There's a Kafka-esque, like
yes,
you use
that
the word,
that I'm
you
cer-
know, kind of.
that I'm certain about. That I'm certain about.
So I'm not sure. I don't think I could live with these paintings, but I do admire them. I think the uniqueness and the individualism is there. So I like it on certain levels. Len, when you were talking and referencing the self-portraits, I thought of the subway thing that you showed us that you like so much, Simon.
Yeah.
But that in a way is a self-portrait. This
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
there's
Yeah. Very good.
there's a
Very good. Excellent. Excellent.
claustrophobic,
Yeah. Excellent. Uh,
paranoia going on there.
Ron, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to see the actual objects, but the images I found deeply affecting and rather sorrowful.
Hmm.
That there's a his wife in the interview talked about Thanksgiving dinner where he finished his dinner, got up and said, "Well, now I think I'll go to the studio," and the family was incredulous, but he went to the studio. There's a deep obsession with capturing, grasping onto life and grasping onto all of the elements of life, the the fruit, the pears, the gourds, the detritus of his life, and making that more real than real. It's almost
More
Egyptian
real than real.
in establishing a kind of
Very,
tune
very well
of
said.
life.
Very well said. Uh, does someone want to ask a question that hasn't spoken or uh, add something? Bruni.
I just wanted to say, you were saying that the painting has no air, and I feel the paintings don't have any sound.
They have
They're very still. I don't
yes,
hear
yes.
anything in
Very good.
his work.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good point.
But I feel also that overall that he's very he has a sense of uneasiness
Yes.
about him.
Yes.
And he's trying to work that sense of not being comfortable in the world or with himself or with life. He's trying to work that out through the painting. And he is so serious. I don't feel, I like to feel paintings. I don't feel any joy in his work or lightness. And yet I love it. I love it at the same time. I feel it's a very true expression of what it is to be human or what his human experience is. So for that reason, I love it. I love it. That's it.
Just to reiterate something that Ron said, when I was speaking to his wife, the first thing I started with was I I said to her that I'd been reading a book which had to do with the schedules of writers when they wrote in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, middle of the night, what their schedule was. So I said to Peggy, I said, did Gregory have a schedule for writing? And she said, no, he didn't have a schedule. He just painted all the time, all the time.
That was his
Very
schedule.
lovely, lovely woman, very sweet, soft. She said he painted all the time. So I said, really, all the time, no schedule? So she said, yes, all the time. So she said, I'll give you this example. So I said, okay, great. So she said, we had a Thanksgiving dinner, and when the dinner was over, he sits up, stands up in front of everyone, and says, well, that was good. I have to go to my studio now. Okay.
Mhm.
She said she was so angry at him for doing that. And, but she said that was him. Um,
That's it.
so I, I don't know what else to say. If there's someone else wants to participate, say something.
The
Yeah,
the
John.
only
John.
it's a question and a comment. You were talking about his influences. I also see, and I can hear from the group here, Francis Bacon, that
Mm.
Yes.
portrait intensity. He gets at it stylistically in a different way, but that sort of intensity. And the Northern Renaissance painters, I don't know their names so well, but Van Eyck maybe.
Yeah.
They look. I was just in the Uffizi, and you can count every hair on the hand of the little girl, and it's so real. It sort of becomes surreal,
Yes. Yes.
and I see that as well.
Um, okay. Well, so I'm gonna send you the recording probably later tonight or tomorrow, and you'll get some other information in it. Um, uh, I'll see you next time. This worked out very well. And you could see it's difficult to figure out coming and going, uh, how to project the point of view here. Um, have a good week, okay?
You too.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much, Simon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care. Take care.
Beautiful.
Nice meeting you, Philippa. Philippa, nice meeting you. And John.
Yes,
And
Simon.
Rich, nice meeting you.
Thank you. See you next week, guys.
Yeah, yeah. You should, Ron, you should come up to see this.
I'm really tempted to do that. It really looks phenomenal work, but
I've got to see it in person.
I want to let you know we're going off to on a tour of Etruscan ruins. Be away for the next two sessions, but I look forward to watching the.
Okay. If you decide to come and visit us too.
Thank you. Well, of course.
Okay. All right. Rich, nice seeing you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Okay. Say hello to your sister,
Will do.
Kathy. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you. Bye-bye.
Bye.